Hi. So welcome to the next series of our big data analytics. Here we will be looking into the data samples. So as we have seen in the last video, we discussed the analytic process, and when you are building an analytic model, what are the important requirements. So now we will go into the a little bit of what do you mean by the data sampling, what are the different types of sampling we are having, and what are the different types of data when we especially go into the statistical analytical technique. Now let us come to the first important point, what is called as the data sampling. So when we try to do the analysis of a population, so in statistics you might be knowing that population means when you are going to consider the entire range, say for example population of India. So you have a lot of data or huge amount of data is there of individual employees, or it can be an individual persons in India. Now it is very difficult for us to understand, study the entire population, so because we have huge amount of data. So one of the best method is that by using sampling. So what do you mean by a sample or a sampling? As the definition goes, we can say that the sampling, as far as statistics, it is nothing but it is a technique in which you are going to select, manipulate and analyze a representative subset of data points. So that means you have a large data set. Now in the entire large data set, now you are going to examine, you are going to select a little bit amount of population, now which we call it as a sample. So when you have got a small sample, now it becomes easy for us to as an analyst, it becomes easy for us to analyze a sample rather than analyzing the entire population. This is what we call it as a data sampling. So data sampling, it helps the analyst, it helps the data scientist, or you can say predictive modelers, in order to work with a small amount of the data, or you can say manageable amount of the data, and analyzing and identifying itself is once again it's a very important task of any analyst, because so the way you are going to analyze the data, the way you are going to sample the data is a very important thing. So when you are going for collecting the sample, now the one important challenge what the analyst is going to face is that the size of the required sample. Now what should be your sample size? Now that is a very important question which you are supposed to understand. So when you are talking of an entire population, and when you want to analyze that for a smaller amount of data set, now what should be the size of the sample? And whenever you are trying to consider some small amount or size of the sample, now obviously there is an error which is being introduced in the sample, which is called as the sampling error. Now what do you mean by a sampling error? Now it is nothing but it is an error that occurs when a data scientist or an analyst does not select a sample that represent the entire population. Because when we are considering a sample, now the sample should represent the population, so that whenever we try to analyze this small set of sample, the result what you are going to get from the small set of sample, it has to replicate the entire population. Now otherwise, now an error is been introduced. Now this error is called as a sampling error. So major challenge for an analyst here is that now what size of the data sample he is supposed to select, and what is the percentage of errors now, or the sampling error is been introduced. So this is one of the important thing what he is supposed to consider. Now when you look into the type of data sampling methods, now when we try to sample this data, what are the different types we are having? So in which way an analyst can try to sample this? Now broadly classify, now this sampling method can be classified into two types. The one is by using the concept of probability, the other one is by non-probability method. So first we'll look into the understand what is the what do you mean by the probability sampling. So all of you know what is the definition of a probability. So whenever we try to look into a population, since we cannot analyze the entire or huge amount of the data set. We have big data is available for us. It is very difficult for us to analyze the entire big data. So what we try to do is that we try to take a small sample. So it becomes easy for the data analyst to analyze a small sample and predict the results and this and try to match it with the entire population. So the probability comes into the picture, or the randomness comes into the picture. The one type of a sampling method is called as the probability sampling. Now it is a sampling technique in which the sample from a large population are chosen now using a method which is based on the theory of a probability. So probability or the randomly we are going to select. So if we collect the data, now it should be random. So we generally use the term random. So now when you say what is the meaning of a random, so if you have got an entire population, like say for example we have an entire class of around 50 students are there. Now in this population, of course 50 students a very small amount. Just assume that this 50 itself is a huge population for us, and we cannot analyze for this 50 students. Now from them we have to collect a sample. So randomly I am going to select a few students from this entire class. Now when we say that randomly you are going to select, so every individual in the population now should have an equal chance of being selected. Then only we call it as a random. So the important property here of the requirement of probability sampling is that everyone in our population has an equal chance of getting selected. So the same thing is given in the here in the a simple example. Now this is what we call it as a probability sampling. So where now the randomly you are going to select. Now under probability sampling, now the first type of sampling is very simple sampling. It is called a simple random sampling. As the name itself suggests here that now it is a random sampling. Now when we look into this, the definition of a randomness. Now what we told that the important characteristic of a probability, that when you are going to select a sample from a population, everyone has equal chance of being selected. Now there we are talking of everyone. Now when you talk of simple random sampling here, now this is a method in which we assign numbers to the individuals. That means a sample we try to assign a numbers and then randomly choose from these number through some method, or you can say some automatic method. Now that is here, now we can have a random sample of our class. Now if you select one particular students to be sampled from that, so that is we try to make a group here. So here we have got a certain group. So in a simple random sampling, now out of 50 students, now say the 50 students are sitting in our classroom. Now how they are been sitting, so we have the different rows are there. Let us say that the class is having 3 rows. Now in the 3 rows all the students are selected. So now we can say the first row can be one group, the second row is another group of students, and third row is another group of students. Now from each group, now each group of sample size n. So now each row we have got some students sitting of size n. So each group of sample size n has an equal chance of selection. So that we call it as a simple random sampling. So we'll take a first group. Now in that first group I am going to pick some samples. Similarly I go to the second group and I try to pick. Now when we are going to pick the sample randomly, I am going to pick the students randomly in the second row. So when I am going to pick the randomly in that group, everyone is having the equal probability of being selected. So this is how, or what we call or define a simple random sampling. So let's go to this next sampling method. So the second method is called as stratified random sampling, and it's again very simple concept to understand. Now you can just look into this diagrams. Now here we can see we have got the population. Now how we are trying to do the stratified random sampling? Now it involves a method where a large population can be divided into a smaller group. So we have a large population and we try to divide this large population into smaller group that usually does not overlap with each other. Now this entire population, now let us say that here now we are trying to group it and differently such that there is no overlap between this entire population. Now once you have done a group, once you are stratified, now stratified is nothing but grouping. So the entire population, you have stratified it into different groups, and while sampling these groups can be organized, and then you can draw a sample from each group separately. Like say for example, from this particular group you are going to select one particular sample, from this group you are going to select. So like this you are going to select the the people from the group. Now this type of sampling we call it as a stratified sampling. Now when we are looking at stratified sampling, as we told that you are going to stratify the entire population. Now what is the method in which we try to do? Generally the common method is that we arrange this entire group based on the gender or age or ethnicity, or say for example if you want to look into the entire population of our country, so you can stratify based on the population of each state wise or district wise. So like this you can first arrange it into group based on certain category, as we are telling, like say gender, it can be age, it can be ethnicity, and then after splitting that, sir, you are going to split that there is no mutual, the group should be non-overlapping, mutual existing groups, exclusive groups you are having. Then from that particular tracks, now you are going to collect a random. So now from there you are going to collect one particular sample, or you are going to collect the member. Now this type of sampling we call it the stratified sampling method. And the third one is called as the cluster random sampling. Now cluster random sampling, now it's another way of randomly selecting the participant from our entire population. Like say for example, now as we are telling, we want to select some 100 participants from the entire population, or we want to select, say for example, 100 best top analysts in your India right now. Now when we look into the entire population, for an analyst, now it is very difficult for us to collect, or it's also impossible for us to know the each and every names, each and every members who are available in the entire India. Collect all the names, and from that particular name you are going to pick the 100 participants. So it is very difficult. Instead of that, now what the analyst does is that now they cluster. So what they do, they randomly select some areas, right? They are going to randomly select some area, some cities. So like say when we are talking of analyst, now we will select, okay, Bangalore, because the IT capital is there, or we select in Andhra, or we select Noida or the Pune, where the major IT people are there, or where the majority we can find. Now we try to cluster these particular area, randomly select the areas, and from that particular boundary, within that particular boundary, now we are going to select the sample. So cluster sampling, now it usually analyzes a particular population in which the sample consists of more than few elements. So based on the clusters what we have selected or what we have divided, now based on that, now we try to collect the samples from that particular population. This is another type of sampling which we call it as the cluster sampling. So the next type of probability sampling is the systematic sampling. Now this is one of the very easy method of sampling, that is systematic. The name only says, even though we are talking about probability, we are talking of randomly selecting, but here we use the name called as systematic sampling. Now this is where say for example, we are all sitting in the classroom, and as we are told that we have 3 benches, 3 rows of students are sitting. Now let us assume that in each row, in each column, that is in the first row, in the first group, now 4 students are sitting. In the second bench, students again 4 are sitting, like that. 4 members are sitting, if you assume like that. Now I will make one particular resolution or certain thumb rule which says that, okay, let me select the last candidate from the first row. That means if the 4 people are sitting, I will select the last one who is sitting in the first row. So then I will go to the next last one, that is the 4th student who is sitting in the second row. Next 4th one who is sitting in the third row. Like this I keep on going. That means so systematic sampling is that where now you are going to choose every nth individual from a part of a sample, right? So we call it as a systematic sampling. So this is another way in which you can try to select the population of particular persons from your entire population, and we can say that a sample. So these are the now different types of probabilistic sampling. So what are that we have just right now seen? We have seen a simple random sampling. We have seen the stratified random sampling is there. Cluster based we are going to see the sampling, and systematically we are going to look into the sampling. Now these are all the 4 different types of random sampling. In randomly how you are going to make your sample so such that you can analyze this particular sample and whatever the results you are going to get, because it is very easy for an analyst to analyze a small sample rather than going into the entire population, because analyzing for an entire population is very difficult. It is very tedious job, or also time consuming, because you have to collect all the data. So better is that you try to collect the sample and try to work it out on this particular sample. Now this is the same idea or the methodologies which you are used to. Say for example, if you go for the election, when the results are being predicted well in advance, so how they are going to collect the samples from the individual population, that which particular party is going to win. They are not going to ask or do the questionnaires for each and every person in that particular locality. They select some particular sample and they analyze it, and they try to relate it to the entire population and predict. Now of course there are certain plus or minus error term will be there. That's what we told, the sampling error will be there. But later on, by using certain statistical method, they try to reduce that particular error. If your sampling selection is very accurate, then only you can predict for the entire population how it is there. So these are all the some of the probabilistic sampling what we have seen. Now we'll go to the second classification in which we can try to sample the data, which is called as non-probabilistic sampling. So non-probabilistic sampling is defined as a sampling technique in which the analyst he selects sample based on subjective judgment. That means if I am going to collect the sample, now I judge based on my experience, based on my knowledge on that particular domain. So I will select, okay, I need only this much. That's what I'm not going for any random here. There is no question of randomness is not associated here. It is completely subjective judgment of the analyst or the researcher or the person who is collecting the data. Now based on his talent, or what you can say the work experience, or based on the problem domain, how he is going to, what is that particular area, now he tries to subjectively judge, take a judgment. Okay, so I want this type of a sample. Now it is a this is what we call it as a non-probabilistic sampling. Again it is said that now this particular sampling method, it heavily depends upon the expertise of the researcher. Now it is completely depends upon how good the analyst is based on his experience. Now how good he can judge, that's what we call it a subjective judgment of through which he is going to collect the sampling. And non-probabilistic sampling, now it is it's completely different. Now if you look into this, the main objective of a probabilistic sampling, where we used to say that every population has an equal chance. Every participant in our population, he has got a equal chance of selection, equal chance of randomly getting selected when we are talking of probability. Now, whereas here each member of the population, now he does not have the equal chance of being selecting, because it completely depends on the researcher, it completely depends on the analyst. Now if I want, I can select that particular sample, so we can't say that. So there is an completely there is an equal chance of selection. Now generally the non-probabilistic sampling, it helps in the exploratory studies like say pilot projects or the pilot survey, so which generally we call, so that is developing a survey to a smaller sample compared to the predefined sample size. So now here in these type of applications, now we try to go with the what you call non-probabilistic sampling. Now again under non-probabilistic sampling also we have different types in which sampling can be done. The first one is called as the convenience sampling, right? Convenience sampling. Now what do you mean by convenience sampling? So here the samples are selected, as the name specifies, as convenience. So based on my convenience, I am going to select the sample size from my population. So convenience. So how much data is available for me? So based on that, the samples are selected from the population because it is convenient for me to select them. it is easily available for me. So since it is convenient, now I select it. So this is one type of a sample. That's what it is called as a convenience sampling. So the analyst select these samples just because they are easy to understand. It is easily available for me. It is there. So I try to select this type of a sampling, which is called as a convenience sampling. The second way of non-probabilistic sampling is consecutive sampling. Now this, it is very similar to a convenient sampling. Now here, now what the analyst does is, analyst picks a single person or a group of a sample. Now he tries to pick from particular sample. He picks some sample. Now you can just look into the term consecutive sampling. Now I select one sample, I analyze this particular sample for over a period of time, and I get some results. Then I move on to the another set of sample. Right? Just like when you are writing a simple program, you give some input. Right? So you give an input. Say for example, last semester you have discussed with ADA. Now you want to find sort the elements. So first time what you gave 5 numbers and you check the result. Okay, now for this particular 5 numbers, there you are getting the output. So next time when you are going to run the program, you change your input. Right? So you change the input, again you check your program, again whether you are going to get the correct answer or not. Similarly here, what the analyst does in the consecutive sampling is, he selects a sample, he works on that particular sample for a particular period of time, he analyzes the result, then move on to the another subject or another group if we need it. So consecutively he is trying to build up the sample. This is one way in which non-probabilistic sampling can be done. Similarly, the third method is called as a quota sampling. So as you know that when the term quota, so here now what happens, the analyst now he wants to study, like say for example you want to study the entire employees, or you want to analyze a particular overall the employees of an organization, and if the organization has got around 2,000 employees or 10,000 employees. So now to understand better about these employees of a population, now what the analyst can do is, he can try, instead of getting the samples from all the 10,000 employees, he try to select a sample, and he is going for a non-probabilistic sampling method. Right? He's not going for a probability, so he's going for a non-probabilistic way of sampling. Now here what we do, based on certain quota he is going to pick the people. Based on certain quota he is trying to pick the sample. Right? So like say all the employees based on one particular salary group, all the employees based on the average age group. Right? There is some quota he is going to say. So all the employees, young employees of an organization, will pick that sample and try to analyze that particular sample. So this type of sampling, we call it as the quota sampling. And the another way in which the sampling can be done is judgmental sampling. Now here the analyst select the sample purely based on his knowledge and credibility. So that's what we call it as judgmental sampling. So it is, of course, it's once again we can say belongs to the previous method of sampling, non-probability, the first method what we have seen. So based on his ability, he is trying to judge, and he try to take certain sampling, which is called as the judgmental sampling. So these are the few way of or different type of sampling which you can see when we are trying to group. Now, of course, as far as what all the topics right now we are going to discuss. Now, as far as in the syllabus, or we can look into the textbook, only small definitions they are trying to ask, but here I have tried to cover maximum or in a more detailed or elaborate manner. We are trying to look into all these things, because these are very important things, or we can say the out of content of the syllabus, wherein these are the fundamental things for any data analyst, which is required when you go for the higher level of studies. So once we have understood what is the sampling, why sampling is very important for any analyst, and the different ways in which you can try to do the samplings. So the next important question or important concept what you are going to discuss is the statistical data. That is what we call it as data elements. Now don't get confused in the questions in the examination. Already in the previous lecture series we have seen, when we look into the big data, we can divide or we can group the big data based on the data that is structured, unstructured, semi-structured, right? So we know that how the data, what the data you are going to collect. So can you store it as a structure? You can call it as a structured data or unstructured data or a semi-structured data. That is concept is different. Now here, based on the statistics, so now what we are doing is we will be trying to look into what all the different types of data types we are having in statistics or the data elements. Now how you are going to measure this particular data element, because this is one of the very important thing for exploratory data analysis. Now when we go for exploratory data analysis, so now here the data becomes very important. Now if you look into this diagram, broadly saying, now when we say that different data types in the statistical analysis, we broadly classify it into two categories. One, we call it as a okay, let us say that you want to collect the data. So we'll go into the one by one things. We'll come back to this diagram later. Okay, so now you want to collect the data. Now when you are going to collect the data, so generally we'll collect the data which has got some numbers sometimes, and generally we'll be having some data which is not numbers, not numeric, right? So we can call number data or non-numeric data. So instead of having these terms called as numbers, non-numeric, a beautiful words has been used. So we can broadly classify this into two. One we call it as the qualitative, the other one is we call it as the quantitative data, right? So qualitative data and the quantitative data. So first we'll go into the qualitative data. Now as the name specifies, qualitative data. So what do you mean qualitative? So we can call it as non-numbers. So when you are saying you are going to collect some data where numbers are not there, right? So we call it, then it is based on quality. Quality is nothing but categorical. You are going to categorize the data. Another term which is generally popularly used for qualitative data is called as a categorical data. So categorical data, it represents the characteristics, right? It represents the characteristics. Like say for example, my hair color, everyone knows that it is three colors, right? Okay, hair colors you can group in one categories: eyes color, or you can say gender, race, religions, hometown, right? Type of a movie. So we try to group the data categorically. Now we call it as a categorical data or qualitative data, right? Now say for example, when you are saying okay, categorical data or qualitative data, let us take a simple example. Now okay, we have seen some example what we are saying: colors, hair colors, or the eye color of a particular person, the gender, race, ethnicity, religion. Based on the religion you are going to collect the data. Now take a simple example: pin code. So I know that every city has got the pin code. Now when you are talking about a pin code, there are numbers are there, right? So we have got some numbers, 6-digit numbers are there in the pin code in let us say in India. So 56000 6 or 001 Bangalore starts. Based on different area or locality, we have different 6-digit numbers have been given, which we generally call as the pin code. Now this pin code has numbers. Now when you say it has numbers, is it categorical or quantitative? Now is the next question. Now does it means when you look into our pin code which has got the number, does it means that can I use any mathematics on this particular number and try to get any information? You have to think. Let's say I stay in Bangalore, I have got a particular pin code. Now you stay, let us say that you stay in in other part of in Karnataka itself. You stay in Shivamoga. Now there you have got one pin code. Now if I take these two pin codes and if I apply some mathematics operations, say for example, if I subtract one pin code from the another pin code, obviously I will get some number. Now will that number indicates the pin code of another city? No. So what it says that now even though in some qualitative data, generally what we told qualitative data means non-numbers, but we have some qualitative data where the numbers are there, and these numbers, and when we try to apply the mathematics on that, so it does not have any meaning. So the main important characteristics when we are talking of categorical data is that you have to see that mathematical operations are meaningless in this type of data. Say for example age, right? If you take my age and if I take your age, now what happens? Now can we get any information from that particular thing? Can we get any information? Yes. What is that information we can extract? So if you take my age and if you take your age and if you subtract, so we can easily say that who is elder, what is the difference between the age difference, what is there. So right, so that particular age cannot come into our categorical data. So can you give an example where when the data which is numeric, but it comes under our categorical data? Now the another best example is phone numbers, right? The phone numbers, it is a number. Can we apply any mathematics on the phone numbers by taking my phone number and your phone number, adding these two phone numbers, will it gives you your father's phone number? No, it does not happen, right? So the where the mathematical operation are meaningless, now we can say that is a qualitative, that is categorical type of data. So the first type of data is your categorical data. So the next type of the data is called as the quantitative data. The quantitative data, a numerical data. So generally these data have the meaning as a measurements, right? So the numerical data, like say for example height of a person, all our heights, so it is numeric, some number is there, weight is a number, age is a number, or let us say the marks, each are scoring individual marks are there, salary, temperature, all these are the example for numeric data. So when you are talking of numeric data, mathematical operation has some meaningful. So mathematical operation, it has got some meaning in that you can apply some mathematical operation right on age or on weight or a salary. You can try to extract some information of this type of data. We call it as a numerical data or quantitative data. So there are two types of data, categorical or quality, and the next one is numerical or quantitative data. So next, when you go into the quantitative data, when you go into the numerical data, now we can broadly classify numerical data into two types. So first one is called as the discrete data, the second one is called as the continuous data. Now let us go into what do you mean by the first one called as the discrete data. Discrete data, it is countable or finite, right? So the data which is countable or finite, the data which we can count, we generally call it as a discrete data. This is very important to understand. So the data which is countable or finite, say for example, what type of data you can call it as a discrete data? Say for example, you have got a hens are there, your poultry is there, now you have got hens. Now if I ask you people how many eggs a particular hen is laying right now, right, or a chicken, or how many eggs a particular chicken is giving. Now if you people give me the answer saying that sir, this chicken is giving 1.1 egg, 1.2 egg, or 3.45 egg, is it possible whether the chicken is going to give you 1.25x? No. So then how you are going to say, you are going to count? Yes, this chicken has given 1 egg, 2 egg, 3 egg, 4 egg. So you are going to count. And how this counting, it is finite, right? So the data which you can count and which is finite, we call it as a discrete data. So say for example, another simple best example we can look into is a dice. Now when you consider a dice, you know that how many sides a dice is having? A dice has got 6 sides. So when you throw a particular dice, now you can either get 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6. Can you get 7, 8, 9, 10 on dice when you throw? No, you are not going to get a 7, 8, 9, because a dice is made of 6 sides and you have got numbers from 1 to 6 countably. When you throw a dice, you can count and it is finite. That means within 1 to 6 only one number you should get. So we have only 6 choices and we have finite number of choices. So we can call it as a discrete data. So this is how we define a discrete data. That is the first category or first type under quantitative data. The next data is called as the continuous data. Now what is the actually the continuous data? Now discrete data is finite, countable. When you're talking about continuous data, infinite number of possible values. So what you can say, what is the continuous data? So it generally represents the measurements. So it is infinite number of possible values and not countable. Now we cannot count, so we call that as a continuous data. Now usually it is a measurement. Let us say it's the best example is that what is the temperature in your city right now outside? If you say it is 34 degree, is it exactly 34 or it is 34.12? It might be 34.12 or it might be 34.28. So between one degree to another degree there is infinite amount of the temperature which you can count. So it becomes a continuous data. It is not a discrete, it is a continuous data. So this is the two types of the data now which we have got under numerical, now which is called as the continuous data and the discrete data. The same thing is given in this diagram. Now you can refer it later in the materials. So the divided into categorical data, numerical data, and numerical data we have got continuous and discrete. Now even in the books or some people even they call we have a data called as binary data, which can take only two values, 0 and 1. Of course it also can be grouped under numerical data. So now once you understand what all the types of the data are there, now there are certain level of measurements. There is a fundamental level of measurement in statistics what we are having. So how we can try to measure all these type of the data. So first we'll go into the first level of measurement, which is called as nominal scale. How you can measure all this data? You have categorical data in one side, you have got numerical data what we are telling in one side. Under numerical you are telling you have got under numerical data you are telling you have got discrete, and you are having continuous data. How do we measure all this data? So we have got a measurement for all this data. So we'll look into the 4 levels of measurement. Generally we have got 4 levels of measurement. The first one is called as nominal scale. So nominal scale is nominal. So the first level of measurement is called as the nominal scale. So nominal scale is a naming scale where the variables are simply named or labeled. So we are just labeling these names, the variables or the data. We are giving a name for that. There is no order here. So it is just a nominal scale. So like say for example categorical data are there. So what do you mean? We have seen the categorical data. The categorical data can be measured based on the nominal scale. So there is no order. Like say for example when we are grouping the ethnicity, when you are grouping the age, when you are trying to write, we don't follow any order. There is no order. Say some of the simple example is that like where do you live? So if you give city or a town or a urban, we will just say 1, 2 or 3. There is no order in which, so we don't have a particular order. Say for example, which brand phone number do you prefer? Now, one is Apple, two is Samsung, three is another Oppo Plus or another mobile. It does not, when you say that, when you are giving it as one as Apple, it doesn't indicate that Apple is the first phone or the best phone. Just it is a level of a measurements where on a nominal scale there is no specific ordering is been available for this. So this is one first level of measurement, which we call it as nominal scale. The second level is called as ordinal scale. Now ordinal scale has all its variable in a specific order. Not only naming here order is very important for us, right? That's why it is called as ordinal scale. Say for example, if you are going to collect the ratings of a particular survey form, or let us say after this particular class. Now if I just tell all of you to give the rating for this particular class, so now you divide it into different level of measurements, and when you are dividing, you are making it in an order. Say for example, if you give 1, it is very satisfiable, 2 is neutral, 3 is satisfied, 4 is very good, the lecture is very good. So you are going to measure the data now based on certain order, right? So this we call it as a ordinal scale. So based on this particular order, you are going to collect the data. And the third level of measurement is called as interval scale. So as a numerical scale, it is an interval scale is nothing but a numerical scale where the order of variable is known as well as the difference between these variables. So we have got an interval, right? When we are going to ask in various forms, you might be seeing what is the family income of your family. So now you have got 3 classes will be there. The first one, so 10,000 to 20,000, 20,000 to 40,000, greater than 40,000, right? So you have got interval scales are there. So it is a numerical scale where the order of variable is known as well as the difference between these variables is also known for us. This is the third level of we can say the scale what we are having. The fourth level of measurement is called as the ratio scale. So it is again it is a variable measurement scale that not only produce the order of variable but also makes the difference between the variables. Apart from the order in which the variables, now we can also make the difference between variables among those based on a true value of 0, so which we call it as a ratio. So here with the option of the true 0, varied in the variables can be grouped. Like say for example, what is your height? So now we have got the values which you can say that first option we can have is that less than 50 kg, 51 to 70, 71 to 30. So like this we have got the ordering based on certain ratio. You are going to fix a ratio, and based on this particular ratio, now we try to order. So these are the 4 levels of measurements what we are having. All the data what you have studied, now it can be grouped into 4 levels of the measurement. So in this is the end of the this particular session. So in this video session, you have looked into the data sampling and what is the data, what are the different types of data which you can see in the statistic. If you have got any queries or any doubts regarding this, please try to give comment in the class. So in the next lecture, we will be looking into the exploratory analytics. That means visual exploratory. And if you go with respect to the exploratory analysis, now we'll try to cover in detail, but in syllabus that much is not required for us, but we'll try to look into the majority concept which comes in the exploratory data analytics or visual exploratory data analytics and various other concepts which are related to that in our next series.